The encounter. On a distant planet, under a sky filled with 3 moons, a human named Alex roamed. He was on an exploration mission, searching for signs of life. The planet's surface was rugged, with towering cliffs and deep valleys. Alex had heard stories of the strange creatures that inhabited this world, but he never imagined what he would find. As he walked, he noticed something unusual in the distance. It was a faint glow, flickering like a dying star. Driven by curiosity, Alex moved closer. As he approached, the glow revealed itself to be a figure, a girl, but not like any he had ever seen before. She was small, with skin that shimmered in shades of blue and purple. Her large, expressive eyes looked up at him, filled with pain and fear. Alex's heart raced. He could see that the alien girl was injured, her body bruised and covered in cuts. It seemed she had been in a battle. Without thinking, he rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling down to get a better look at her wounds. The alien girl tried to speak, but her voice was weak and broken. "Help me," she whispered, her breath shallow. Alex felt a wave of determination. He had to help her. He quickly checked his backpack for supplies. All he had was a small first aid kit and some food rations. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Alex gently lifted her head and began to clean her wounds with a cloth. She winced in pain but didn't pull away. Instead, she watched him with a mix of hope and distrust. As he worked, Alex noticed the markings on her skin. They glowed softly, pulsing with light. It was as if she had a power inside her, waiting to be unleashed. He wondered what kind of being she was. His mind raced with questions. What had happened to her? Why was she alone? After tending to her cuts, he pulled out a food ration. "You need to eat," he said gently. The girl hesitated, eyeing the food with suspicion. "I won't hurt you. I promise," he reassured her. Slowly, she took the food and nibbled on it. "Thank you," she said, her voice stronger now. "I am Zira." "Alex," he replied with a smile. "Where are you from, Zira?" She looked around cautiously, as if afraid someone might overhear them. "I come from the valley beyond these cliffs. I was attacked by a group of hunters. They wanted me for my abilities." Her eyes filled with fear as she spoke. "I ran, but they found me." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He knew the galaxy was full of danger, but he didn't think he would find it here. "You're safe now. I won't let them hurt you," he vowed. Zira nodded, but the fear still lingered in her eyes. After a moment of silence, Alex realized they needed to leave this place. It was too dangerous for both of them. He scanned the area, looking for a safe path. "We need to find shelter," he said. "Can you walk?" Zira attempted to stand but stumbled. Alex quickly moved to support her. "Lean on me," he said. Together, they began to move slowly through the rocky terrain. Zira was light, but every step seemed to take all her strength. As they walked, Zira shared more about her world. She told Alex of the beautiful valleys, the strange creatures that lived there, and the legends of her people. Alex listened intently, fascinated by her stories. Just then, a loud sound broke the silence. A growl echoed in the distance. Both Alex and Zira froze. The growl was followed by the sound of footsteps. They were not alone. "Quick, this way," Alex whispered urgently, leading Zira to a narrow path that hugged the cliffside. They hurried along, hoping to escape whatever creature was following them. As they rounded a bend, Zira leaned heavily against the rock wall, trying to catch her breath. Alex looked back, heart pounding. He could hear the growls getting closer. "We need to hurry," he urged. With a newfound strength, Zira pushed herself to move faster. They rounded another corner and found a small cave. "In here," Alex urged, pulling her inside just as a shadow passed by outside. Inside the cave, it was dark but safe. They huddled together, listening to the sounds of the predator outside. Alex's heart raced, but he felt a strong need to protect Zira. "Thank you, Alex," Zira whispered, her voice trembling. "You saved me." In that moment, Alex realized how much he cared for this alien girl. He would do anything to keep her safe. "We'll get through this together," he promised, feeling a bond forming between them. As they waited in the darkness, Alex felt a surge of hope. They were two beings from different worlds, but they had found each other. Together, they could face whatever danger awaited them. The encounter had changed everything, and neither of them would ever be the same again. The hunt begins. As they huddled in the cave, Alex and Zira listened closely to the sounds outside. The growls had faded, but the tension in the air remained thick. Zira was still trembling, and Alex could feel her fear. He needed to act fast. "We can't stay here long," he said quietly, looking into her shimmering eyes. "We need to find a safer place." Zira nodded, her expression turning serious. "There is a hidden cave in the valley. It's protected. If we can reach it, we will be safe." "Let's go then," Alex replied, determination filling him. He helped her stand, and they slowly made their way back towards the cave entrance. The sun was setting, casting a red glow across the horizon. As they stepped outside, Alex scanned the area for any signs of danger. The shadows were growing longer, and the sounds of the night creatures filled the air. It was beautiful, but also foreboding. "Stay close to me," Alex instructed as they began to walk. Zira was still weak, leaning heavily on him for support. He could feel her breath against his arm, and it steadied his nerves. Together, they navigated through the rocky landscape, their footsteps echoing against the stones. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes made them both stop. Alex's heart raced. What was that? He whispered, ready to protect Zira at all costs. "Just keep moving," Zira urged, fear flashing in her eyes. "They might still be searching for me." With that, they hurried forward, moving cautiously and quietly. The terrain was uneven, and Alex had to guide Zira carefully to avoid slipping on loose rocks. Each step felt heavy with the weight of their situation. As they neared the valley, Zira pointed to a narrow opening between two large boulders. "That's it. The hidden cave is just ahead." Relief washed over Alex. He pushed through the bushes, and they stepped into the safety of the concealed cave. Inside, it was dark and cool, providing a stark contrast to the hot air outside. Zira leaned against the cave wall, taking a moment to catch her breath. "Do you think they followed us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I hope not," Alex replied, glancing back toward the entrance. "But we can't let our guard down." They took a moment to rest. Alex pulled out his first aid kit again, examining Zira's wounds. "You need more help," he said, gently cleaning the cuts and applying bandages. "Thank you," Zira said softly, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You're very kind." "I can't just leave you here like this," Alex replied, smiling slightly. "We're in this together now." Once he finished, Zira spoke up. "I have to tell you about the hunters. They are not just any creatures. They are ruthless, and will stop at nothing to capture me. I possess abilities that they want." "What kind of abilities?" Alex asked, intrigued. "I can manipulate energy," she said, showing him her glowing hands. "But it's dangerous. If I'm captured, they will use me as a weapon." Alex's eyes widened. "We have to make sure that doesn't happen. We need a plan." Zira nodded, determination replacing her earlier fear. "We should find a way to communicate with my people. They can help us." "Do you have a way to contact them?" he asked. "Yes, there is a beacon hidden in the forest," she replied. "If we can reach it, I can send a signal for help." "Then that's our goal," Alex declared. "We'll leave at dawn." As they settled in for the night, the darkness around them felt heavy with uncertainty. But Alex felt a flicker of hope. They had each other, and together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the stars twinkled above, Alex watched Zira drift into a light sleep, He couldn't help but admire her bravery. In this strange world, they had formed an unbreakable bond. He promised himself that he would do everything in his power to keep her safe. The night passed slowly, and as dawn broke, they prepared for the journey ahead. Zira stood by the entrance, looking out at the vast landscape. "Are you ready?" she asked, a mix of fear and hope in her voice. "Ready as I'll ever be," Alex replied, his resolve stronger than ever. They stepped out of the cave, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them, united in their fight for survival. The journey to the beacon. The morning sun rose slowly, casting golden rays across the landscape. Alex and Zira stood at the mouth of the cave, taking in the view. They knew the path ahead would be dangerous, but they had no choice. Zira's survival depended on reaching the beacon. "Let's move quickly," Alex urged, determination etched on his face. Zira nodded, her energy renewed. Together, they ventured into the wild, the sounds of the forest enveloping them. The path was rough and uneven, filled with thick underbrush and sharp rocks. Zira led the way, her senses heightened as they moved through the trees. "We need to stay quiet," she reminded Alex. The hunters could be nearby. As they trekked deeper into the forest, Alex took a moment to observe their surroundings. The trees towered high above, their leaves shimmering in the sunlight. Strange creatures scurried in the underbrush, but they were careful not to disturb the peace. Suddenly, Zira stopped, her eyes wide with alarm. "We need to hide," she whispered urgently. Alex quickly looked around and spotted a dense thicket. They ducked inside, hearts racing. Through the leaves, they saw shadows moving. A group of alien hunters emerged from the trees, their voices low and menacing. Alex's breath caught in his throat. They were close. "What do we do?" he asked, fear creeping into his voice. "Stay still," Zira whispered, her face pale. They pressed against the ground, trying to remain as quiet as possible. The hunters passed by, scanning the area, their eyes searching for any sign of Zira. Once the danger had passed, Alex exhaled a sigh of relief. "That was too close," he said, his heart still pounding. Zira nodded, her expression grave. "They're persistent. We must be more careful." After waiting for a moment, they resumed their journey. Zira was determined to reach the beacon, and Alex was committed to helping her. As they moved through the forest, they found a small stream. It was a chance to rest and refill their water supplies. While Zira drank, Alex sat on a rock, contemplating their situation. "Why do they want you so badly?" he asked, genuinely curious. Zira took a deep breath, her expression somber. "My people possess a unique energy that can be harnessed for powerful technology. If the hunters capture me, they will use my abilities to conquer other worlds." Alex's eyes widened in realization. "You're more important than you know. We have to make sure they never get their hands on you." "Yes," Zira agreed, a flicker of hope returning to her eyes. "But it won't be easy." After their short rest, they continued on, Zira guiding Alex toward the beacon. The forest began to thin, revealing a rocky outcrop in the distance. "That's where it is," she exclaimed, excitement bubbling in her voice. But their joy was short-lived. As they approached the outcrop, they heard a chilling sound, a howl echoing through the trees. Zira froze, her eyes wide with fear. "They found us. We need to run," Alex shouted, adrenaline surging through him. They turned and sprinted back into the trees, hearts pounding in their chests. Branches whipped against their skin as they darted through the underbrush. Alex glanced over his shoulder, seeing dark figures moving quickly behind them. The hunters were gaining ground. "Zira, keep going," he urged. "We have to make it to the beacon." They pushed onward, their bodies fueled by fear and determination. As they reached the rocky outcrop, Alex spotted the beacon in the distance, a tall, slender structure pulsing with a soft blue light. "It's right there," he shouted, pointing ahead. Just as they approached, the hunters burst through the trees, blocking their path. Alex felt a surge of panic. They were trapped. "Zira," he called, trying to think fast. Without hesitation, Zira stepped forward, her eyes fierce. "I can distract them. You must reach the beacon." "No, we can't split up," Alex protested, desperation in his voice. "Trust me," Zira insisted. "I'll buy you time. Go." With no other choice, Alex nodded, his heart heavy. He turned and sprinted toward the beacon, hoping Zira would be safe. Behind him, he heard Zira calling out, her voice echoing through the trees. "Come and get me, you cowards." Alex reached the beacon, his hands trembling as he activated it. A bright light flared to life, sending a signal into the sky. He could only hope it would reach her people in time. As he glanced back, he saw Zira fighting bravely, her energy glowing around her. But the hunters were relentless. "Please, Zira," he whispered, hoping she would hold on. He watched, helpless, as the scene unfolded. Zira was putting everything on the line for him, and he couldn't let her sacrifice be in vain. The beacon was active, but would help arrive in time. "You said, a desperate rescue." The beacon's light pulsed like a heartbeat against the twilight sky, casting a soft glow over the rocky outcrop. Alex watched in horror as Zira faced the hunters alone. He could see the fear in her eyes, but also a fierce determination. She would not back down. "Help will come, Zira," he shouted, hoping his words would reach her. Zira spun, using her energy to create a barrier around herself. "I will hold them off. Just stay focused on the beacon." The hunters moved with precision, trying to flank her. Their eyes glinted with menace as they approached, and Alex felt a wave of helplessness wash over him. He wanted to charge back and fight beside her, but he knew he had to trust Zira. She was strong, stronger than he realized. Suddenly, one of the hunters lunged toward her. Zira countered, her energy flaring bright, forcing the attacker back. "Go, Alex," she yelled. "I'll be fine." Alex's heart raced as he kept his eyes on the beacon, praying for salvation. The light shot into the heavens, piercing through the darkness. He hoped Zira's people would see it and come to her aid. "Zira," he called out again, desperation creeping into his voice. She held her ground, energy crackling around her as she deflected attacks from the hunters. With every blow she absorbed, Alex felt his resolve strengthen. He had to believe she would make it. He couldn't let fear control him. The tension in the air thickened as the hunters grew more aggressive. Zira moved gracefully, her energy forming shields and blasts that pushed the hunters back. Yet he could see fatigue setting in. "Hang on, Zira," he shouted, forcing himself to focus. "Help is coming." Suddenly, the beacon emitted a loud, pulsing sound, echoing through the forest. Alex looked up, his heart soaring with hope. Above them, a ship appeared, cutting through the clouds with dazzling speed. "They're here," he exclaimed, relief washing over him. But the hunters didn't back down. They realized the danger and shifted their focus to the ship. Alex felt panic rise again. "Zira, we need to go now," he urged, motioning her to retreat. "I won't leave until they're gone," she shouted back, launching another blast of energy. The ship hovered above, its light beaming down, illuminating the chaos below. A hatch opened, and figures emerged, weapons ready. Zira fought valiantly, but Alex could see she was tiring. "Zira, please," he pleaded. "We can't lose you." In that moment, the ship's crew engaged the hunters, firing energy blasts that lit up the forest. The hunters, taken by surprise, turned to face this new threat. Alex watched, hope looming in his chest. "Get to the beacon, Zira," a voice shouted from the ship, clear and commanding. "We'll cover you." Without hesitation, Zira dashed toward the beacon, her energy flaring brighter than ever. She was almost there when a hunter lunged for her, desperation in its movements. "No," Alex yelled, charging forward instinctively. He couldn't let them take her. Just as he reached her, the hunter stumbled, caught off guard by the crew's fire. Zira spun around, her energy forming a barrier that pushed the hunter back. They reached the beacon together, and the ship's crew continued to provide cover fire. The tide was turning. The hunters were overwhelmed by the unexpected reinforcements. "Now get inside," one of the crew shouted. Zira and Alex rushed toward the open hatch of the ship, relief flooding through them. As they climbed aboard, Alex glanced back at the scene below. The hunters were retreating, and the ship's crew was pushing forward, securing the area. Inside the ship, the crew welcomed them. "You made it," one of them said, a grin on their face. "We got your signal." Zira leaned against the wall, breathless but relieved. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Don't thank us yet," the crew member replied. "We need to get out of here before they regroup." The ship's engines roared to life, and it lifted off the ground, leaving the chaos behind. Alex watched through the window as the forest faded away, the danger retreating into the distance. "Are you okay?" he asked Zira, concern etched on his face. "I am now," she replied, offering him a faint smile. "You risked everything to save me." Alex shook his head. "We're in this together. I won't let anything happen to you." As they soared into the sky, Zira leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. She had survived, but they both knew this fight wasn't over. The hunters would come again. But for now, they were safe, and they had each other. "Let's make sure they don't find us again," Zira said, determination returning to her eyes. "Yes," Alex agreed, feeling the new sense of purpose. They would face whatever came next together. "You said, the alliance forms." As the ship soared into the sky, Alex felt a mix of relief and determination. Zira stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the stars, a fierce light burning in her eyes. They had escaped the hunters, but the fight was far from over. The alliance they needed was just beginning to take shape. The crew of the ship gathered around them, their expressions serious but welcoming. "We need to regroup and plan," one of the crew members said. "The hunters won't give up easily." Zira nodded, her energy still crackling around her. "I know their tactics. They will come back, but we can outsmart them." Alex turned to Zira, impressed by her strength. "What can we do?" he asked, eager to help. "We need a strategy." The crew member who had first welcomed them stepped forward. "We've got a safe place where we can lay low for a while. It's a hidden base, far from here. Once we get there, we can figure out our next steps." The ship flew through the vastness of space, the distant stars twinkling like a million eyes watching over them. Alex sat beside Zira, sharing ideas about the hunters' potential strategies and weaknesses. "Do you think they'll follow us?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice. "They might try," Zira replied, her tone firm. "But they'll be less prepared now that we have a warning. They won't expect us to fight back." The ship's crew began to strategize, mapping out the hunters' territory and discussing what they knew about their enemy. Alex listened intently, absorbing every detail. He realized that this was not just about saving Zira anymore. It was about standing up for those who couldn't protect themselves. As they neared the hidden base, Zira's energy seemed to pulse with excitement. "This is it," she said, looking out the window. "We'll be safe here for now." The ship touched down gently on a rocky surface, and the crew immediately began unloading supplies. Zira and Alex stepped off the ship, taking in their surroundings. The base was well camouflaged, blending into the landscape with its advanced technology. Inside, the atmosphere was buzzing with activity. Crew members were setting up equipment, their voices filled with urgency. Zira looked around, her determination evident. "We need to prepare. We can't let them catch us off guard again." Alex felt a thrill of purpose. He wanted to be a part of this, to help in any way he could. "What can I do?" he asked Zira. Start by helping with the defenses, she suggested, her eyes shining. We need to strengthen our position. If they come back, we'll be ready. As they worked alongside the crew, Alex learned about the technology used to fortify the base. He realized that the alliance they were forming was powerful. They were not just a group of individuals. They were a team united by a common goal. Hours passed as they prepared. Zira took charge, coordinating the efforts with precision. Alex was amazed by how quickly the crew responded to her commands. She inspired confidence, and he felt proud to stand beside her. As night fell, the base was illuminated by soft lights, creating a sense of safety and warmth. They gathered in a central room to discuss their plan. The crew leader stood at the front, a map of the hunter's territory displayed behind him. Here is what we know, he began, pointing at various locations. The hunters have several bases scattered across this region. They operate in groups, so we need to hit them where it hurts. Zira listened intently, her eyes narrowing as she absorbed the information. If we can gather intel on their movements, we can ambush them before they reach us, she suggested. Alex raised his hand, a thought striking him. What if we used a decoy? Draw them away from their bases while we gather information. The room fell silent as everyone considered his idea. Zira looked at him, impressed. That could work, she agreed. If we can make it believable, they might take the bait. The crew leader nodded, a smile breaking across his face. Excellent idea. We'll need to create a diversion while a small team gathers information. As they brainstormed, Alex felt a growing sense of camaraderie with Zira and the crew. They were all in this together, fighting against a common enemy. The weight of the situation pressed on him, but he found comfort in the unity they shared. Let's get to work, Zira said, her voice steady. We had a lot to do if we want to take back control. As they began to formulate their plan, Alex felt a renewed sense of hope. They were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a future where Zira and her people could live freely. Together, they would make a stand against the hunters, proving that no one should be left behind. And as the night deepened around them, they prepared to unleash their plan, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. You said, the final stand. The atmosphere inside the hidden base buzzed with tension as Alex and Zira, along with the crew, prepared for their final stand against the hunters. Each member of the crew was assigned a role, and the energy was a mix of excitement and fear. They all knew what was at stake. Zira stood at the front, her presence commanding attention. This is our chance, she said, her voice strong. We've worked hard to get here. We can't let fear stop us. We fight for freedom, for our lives, and for everyone who cannot fight for themselves. Alex felt his heart race as he absorbed her words. He had never thought he would be part of something so important. This was not just a mission. It was a battle for survival. Everyone has a job, Zira continued. We will create a diversion to draw the hunters away from their main base. While they are distracted, a small team will sneak in to gather vital information about their operations and weaknesses. Alex volunteered to be part of the team heading into the hunters' territory. I want to help, he declared. Zira smiled, her eyes shining with pride. I knew you would. We need your quick thinking. As night fell, the crew set their plan into motion. Alex's team was small but determined. They equipped themselves with the best gear the base could offer, preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. Zira checked each member's equipment, her focus unwavering. Stay close to me, she instructed as they moved toward the exit. We'll stick to the shadows and avoid open areas. The team moved quietly through the rocky landscape, their hearts pounding in unison. The moon shone brightly overhead, illuminating their path as they approached the hunter's base. Alex could feel the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. He was not just fighting for Zira, he was fighting for everyone who had ever been oppressed. When they reached the outskirts of the hunter's base, they hid behind a large boulder, surveying the area. The hunters were busy, their voices filled with laughter and arrogance. They don't even know we're here, one of Alex's team members whispered. Let's take advantage of that, Zira replied. We need to find out where they keep their records and plans. That's our target. As they inched closer, Alex's heart raced. He spotted a guard near the entrance. We need to get past him, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Zira nodded, her expression serious. I'll distract him. You guys move in quietly. With a quick nod, Zira moved toward the guard, her body language confident. She approached him, her voice sweet. Excuse me, I think I'm lost. Can you help me? The guard, intrigued, turned his attention to her, allowing Alex and the others to slip past unnoticed. As they entered the base, Alex felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, with computers humming and lights flashing. They quickly moved toward the main control room, where they hoped to find the information they needed. Zira led the way, her eyes sharp and focused. Suddenly, an alarm blared. They know we're here, one of the team members shouted. Panic surged, but Zira held her ground. Stay calm. We need to find the records. They raced into the control room, Zira quickly typing on the computer. Alex and the others kept watch, ready to defend her at any moment. The screen flickered as Zira accessed the data. I'm almost there, she shouted. Outside, they could hear the footsteps of the hunters approaching, their voices filled with anger. They're in here. Find them. Just as Zira finished downloading the information, the door burst open and hunters flooded in. Get down. Alex yelled, grabbing Zira and pulling her to the ground as blaster fire erupted around them. The team fought back, using their training to defend their position. Zira fired back, her energy pulsing as she struck down enemies. Alex felt a surge of fear and determination as he aimed and fired, each shot ringing true. They held their ground, but the odds were against them. Just when it seemed like they might be overwhelmed, the sound of an explosion rocked the base. The crew from the hidden base had come to back them up. Push forward, Zira shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Together, they fought side by side, the alliance growing stronger as they faced the hunters together. As the battle raged on, Alex felt a sense of belonging. He was not just a human, he was part of something greater. Together, they would fight for freedom and for Zira's people. With each victory, they pushed deeper into the hunters' territory, ready to take back what was rightfully theirs. In that moment, Alex knew that no matter the outcome, they were fighting for a cause worth standing up for. Together, they would win this battle. A new dawn. The battle raged on, and the sounds of blaster fire echoed through the halls of the hunter's base. Alex and Zira fought side by side, their bond stronger than ever as they pushed forward. The initial panic of the ambush had transformed into a fierce determination to reclaim freedom for Zira's people. Stay close, Zira shouted, her eyes scanning for threats. Alex nodded, adrenaline coursing through him. They had fought hard to reach this point, and they would not give up now. As they advanced through the control room, more hunters poured in, but Alex felt a surge of confidence. The unexpected backup from the hidden base had turned the tide in their favor. With each enemy they took down, they reclaimed not just ground, but hope. Suddenly, Zira pointed towards a large door at the end of the hall. That's where they keep the main data vault, she yelled. We need to get in there. With renewed energy, they dashed towards the door, but it was heavily guarded. A group of hunters stood in front, weapons raised. Stop right there, one of them shouted. Without hesitation, Zira and Alex took cover behind a nearby wall. We need a plan, Alex said, glancing at the enemy's position. We can't charge in blindly. Zira thought for a moment. I'll create a distraction. You flank them from the side and hit them with a surprise attack. Got it, Alex replied, his heart racing. He watched as Zira stepped out, drawing the attention of the hunters. Hey, over here, she shouted, firing a few rounds in their direction. As the hunters turned, Alex seized the opportunity, darting to the side. He moved quickly and silently, his training kicking in. When he was in position, he took a deep breath and prepared for his strike. "Now!" Zira shouted, and Alex sprang into action. He burst from his hiding spot, catching the hunters off guard. He fired his weapon with precision, taking down one guard, then another. Zira joined him, and together, they overwhelmed the remaining hunters. With the guards defeated, they rushed to the data vault door. Zira quickly accessed the controls. "I can unlock it, but we need to be ready. They will come for us once they realize what we're doing." Alex nodded, keeping watch. "I'll cover you. We need that information." Zira typed furiously, her fingers flying over the console. "Almost there. Just a little longer." As the door slid open, they were greeted with rows of screens and data terminals, the lifeblood of the hunters' operations. Zira hurried to a terminal, beginning to download critical information. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. "They're coming," Alex warned. "We have to hurry." "I'm almost done," Zira replied, her focus unwavering. Just as the download completed, the door burst open and hunters charged in. "Get back!" Alex shouted, raising his weapon. He fired at the first hunter, but there were too many. Zira grabbed the data drive and slipped it into her pocket. "Let's go," she yelled, and they turned to escape. They ran down the hallway, dodging blaster fire as they made their way back toward the exit. "Over here." Zira pointed to a side corridor. "This way leads to the outside." They sprinted down the corridor, adrenaline fueling their escape. Behind them, they could hear the hunters yelling and organizing their pursuit. "We need to find the others," Alex shouted, looking back for a moment. "They could be in trouble." "Focus on getting out first," Zira urged. "We'll regroup once we're safe." Finally, they reached the exit. Zira pushed the door open, and they stumbled outside, the cool night air hitting their faces. They could see the chaos of the battle outside, with allies from the hidden base engaging the hunters. "Now what?" Alex asked, panting. "We fight," Zira declared, her eyes blazing with determination. "We can't let them regroup. We need to push them back." Together, they joined the fight, rallying their allies. With renewed strength, they charged at the remaining hunters, their spirits high. As they battled, Alex felt a deep sense of purpose. He was no longer just a bystander in someone else's fight. He was part of a greater cause. Together, they could change the fate of Zira's people. The clash of weapons and the cries of battle filled the air, but amidst the chaos, Alex and Zira fought on, determined to win. No matter the outcome, they would not let fear dictate their future. Together, they were unstoppable. As the dawn began to break, the first light of day shone over the battlefield, marking the beginning of a new chapter in their fight for freedom. They were warriors now, bound by hope and the will to stand against oppression.